All right, so let's try this again because we're definitely in the Mercury retrograde shadow period, and things are going to start to act kind of wonky. So I think that's what happened. I think the last live was frozen, and so I just stopped it and started a new one. So if you hopefully find your way to this one, perfect, right? If not, you could always catch it on the replay, right? No worries. So let's see, where were we? All right. So I guess what I was saying, as I reiterate everything, the major happening for this week is going to be the new moon in Leo. It's going to be such beautiful energy for us to manifest the things that are really in our hearts. Okay. And what is this message here? I sent a message in the other live that you started a new live. Okay. Thank you very much, Patricia Jean. I sincerely appreciate that because I wanted to get all this configured and I didn't have a chance to send another message. But thank you very much for that. So I'm sure that people will find us eventually. Okay. And again, if not, people can find us on the replay. But yes, as I was saying, this new moon is all about what is in our hearts. It's what our inner children really want, the things that we truly desire, the things that we're passionate about. It's all about our self-expression, our creativity. It is such a beautiful new moon for manifesting. Okay. And so if you're interested in knowing more about the new moon in Leo, I just dropped a video on Friday all about it. So I'll link that in the description box below so you can check it out if you haven't checked it out already. Okay. Now, we're also going to have the opportunity to really sort of see how far we've come in terms of our healing work. I mean, that's all provided you've done the healing work, correct? So it's really about sort of seeing how far you said my whole government name. Well, that's how it comes up on YouTube. Sorry. I didn't mean to put your business out there like that. But yes. So many of us are going to be able to see the fruits of our labor, especially if we've been doing this inner healing work. So with this Venus retrograde transit, I feel like a lot of us have been doing heart healing work, heart-centered work, heart chakra work, working on ourselves, self-love, self-worth, value in our lives. A lot of us have been doing some really deep work. And I feel like this is the week where we're going to start to see the tides turning, where we're going to see the wheels start turning, things moving forward, and we're going to be able to really attest to the work that we've been doing. So again, beautiful energy. And of course, it wouldn't be the universe without some curveballs, right? We're not going to have anything major. However, we should brace ourselves for the unexpected. The way that the universe is sort of set up this week, I feel like we're going to receive some surprises. And I'm not even going to say they're going to be surprises like crazy surprises or bad surprises. I think they're going to be surprises where we're sort of surprised at ourselves. Maybe how far we've grown, how much we've grown, how far we've come, maybe how much we haven't grown or how much work we haven't done, right? I think it's going to be one of those weeks where it's really enlightening in terms of ourselves, seeing ourselves in the light of day and seeing sort of what we need to work on. And that can ultimately be a good thing, especially with this new moon energy. I feel like knowing who you are, knowing where you stand is one of the best places to be in terms of manifesting the things that you want. So again, I feel like we're going to be throwing some curveballs, but nothing too crazy. Okay. So I think, yeah, we'll skip all that other stuff because I sort of mentioned it before. But if you've been here before, you know that you can find all the interesting tidbits of information about my products and services in the description box below. My signature service, the blueprint, which is a natal chart report and consultation, is going to be linked to this video. So definitely check that out if you are interested. Okay. So let's get into the highlights and see what we've got going on for this week. So I like this. The Virgo in me, my Virgo sun with my Taurus rising, I like to be like aesthetically pleasing. I like to be precise, but I also like to make things look and sound cute. So every week I'm like racking my brain for these cute little highlights, right? You may not really care, but I find joy in coming up with these little titles. So the first one is called Love on Top, okay? And that is the new moon in Leo. So it's all about love. And when I say love, please don't confuse this with just romantic love or just relationships. The best love starts with self-love. And I think that people often overlook that because our attention is constantly directed outward. It's constantly directed externally. And it is amazing. The minute that you turn your attention, your effort, and your energy to yourself, the whole world changes. Everything changes with respect to how you feel and what you believe about yourself. That's why I love Leo energy, because Leo energy, it's a bit self-centered. It's a bit like attention seeking, but it's all about sort of being who you authentically are and just allowing yourself to authentically express yourself. And when you are in love with yourself, everyone else is in love with you. Like, that's not some corny, cheesy kind of line. It's the truth. And I feel like when you get to that point, the world truly becomes your oyster. And with this new moon in Leo, that love that you feel, it's like you have this charged battery that you can just use to manifest whatever it is that your heart truly desires. When I say the energy for this new moon is beautiful, it truly is. All right. So it's about addressing what's in your heart, revisiting love and romance, especially with Venus being retrograde in Leo and being conjunct this new moon. And it's also about finding your creativity. Like, I can't stress enough how beautiful this energy is for self-expression and creativity and expressing yourself through art and beautiful things, right? So again, beautiful energy for this new moon. Then we have what I like to call surprise, surprise. This is sort of that curveball that the universe is going to be throwing our way this week. We have 2 Uranus transits, okay? So this is going to be enlightening. On the one hand, it's going to be enlightening in terms of who we are, where we're at currently. But it's also going to be a little bit, it's also going to be a little bit wonky energy too. All right. So this is going to be one of those weeks where you're going to want to be extremely careful because accidents can happen, whether they're motor vehicle accidents, whether they are like, you're going to want to be careful with things like knives, scissors, all that kind of stuff, because a lot of those accidents can tend to happen with one of these particular Uranus transits. You may get unexpected news or unexpected events may unfold. I mean, I was literally just passing by the TV and saw that, the former president is getting indicted again, right? Right off the heels of the last one, which was last week, right? I find that seems to be Uranus sort of at work, if I were to use an example. But by and large, anytime we have Uranus transits, it's really about breaking free from restriction. So this may be a week where you find it hard to stick to routine. It may be a week where you just want to break free. You want to do something different. You want to experience some excitement in your life. And if that's how you're feeling, go for it, because the astrology definitely supports it. And then finally, we have what I like to call karmic healing, okay? And this is going to be a very important transit that we're actually experiencing today, which is Venus trine Chiron. And so this is overcoming past wounds and traumas. And this is sort of what I was talking about before, about being able to sort of bask in the fruits of your labor, especially if you've been doing the work. So if you've been overcoming emotional wounds and traumas, especially as they relate to relationships, I feel like that energy, like you're going to have this sort of new beginning kind of feeling, and you're going to have this feeling and have this energy of attracting love and abundance. So that's what I mean when I say that you're going to start to see the fruits of the labor of this work that you've been doing. It also allows us to heal significant relationships. So if you have a relationship that has been estranged, if things have sort of gone off the rails, I feel like this is one of those weeks where you can actually make amends and start mending some tattered or torn relationships. Okay, so good week all in all. And speaking of the week, let's get into it. So today we've got Venus trine Chiron, like I was just mentioning, plus we have the moon in Leo. And then tomorrow we have the Sun square Uranus, which is all about expecting the unexpected. Then on Wednesday, we have a pretty full day. We have the new moon in Leo, which is the star of the week. We've got Mars trine Uranus, and we've also got the moon in Virgo. And then we close out the week on Saturday with the moon in Libra. All right, so without further ado, let's jump right into everything. All right, my loves. So today we've got Venus trine Chiron and the moon moving into Leo. So you will see the moon and Venus are going to be in the larger red circle towards the left-hand portion of the chart, right? We see Venus at 19 degrees Leo. The moon is at 0 degrees Leo. And then we've got Chiron at the upper right-hand portion of the chart, which is at 19 degrees Aries, okay? So the first thing that stands out to me with respect to Venus trine Chiron is that they're both in fire signs. And fire has everything to do with spirit. It has everything to do with passion. It has everything to do with our drive, our emotion, sort of our vital life energy, right? And fire ignites things. It energizes things. It sets things ablaze, right? Well, fire is the blaze, right? But this is about attraction, and attraction in a very sort of fiery way, right? Whenever we have Chiron, we're talking about emotional wounds, we're talking about insecurities, we're talking about the things that make us feel less than ourselves. It's our Achilles heel. And Chiron shows us what we need to heal in this lifetime. It also shows us our strength. In healing our Achilles heel, we become stronger. And not even just that, Chiron also shows us where we can be an example to others by healing our own wounds, right? And if you want to know more about Chiron, I did a video on it a couple of weeks ago. I'll also link that in the description box below so you can check that out. But with Venus, especially Venus being retrograde, like I said, so many of us are doing the healing work, right? Especially as it pertains to relationships, our self-love, self-worth, value in our lives, all that great stuff. And so this is, like I said, this is going to be where you reap the rewards for the work that you've been doing. And you do that by attracting what it is that you have healed from. So if you had, like, imagine this, like the relationships in your life were riddled with codependency, abandonment issues, jealousy, cheating, all that stuff, right? And you've been doing the inner work to figure out where these things come from, why you've been acting in such ways, why you feel certain things, why you get triggered by certain things, right? And now that you've done the healing work, and please understand that healing work is the word that first came to mind was eternal. We're never like, okay, I'm completely healed. You start to just see things from a different vantage point. So it may not be the case where you're now attracting your knight in shining armor or your queen and everything is perfect. How this usually manifests is that you attract the relationship and you're able to see the red flags clear as day from out the gate, right? And you sort of think of things differently. You see things differently. You're like, wait a minute, I encountered this before. Last time I engaged in this fuckery and it made no sense. Now I'm going to stay away from that. Or now when you have a new partner and they're on their phone all the time, or they spend the day out and don't call you, you don't immediately get triggered, right? Because you've worked through those issues. And so you're able to attract love. You're able to attract even money, right? Because Venus has a lot to do with money. You're able to attract these things in a way that's more in alignment with your healed self. That's what I mean by enjoying the fruits of your labor, okay? And so it's definitely one of those situations where you're able to see things differently, experience things differently, because isn't that the point? Before you were on this consciousness journey, didn't it feel like you were kind of on a hamster wheel? Like the same things kept happening, the same story, but different characters, the same issues, the same triggers. And then finally, it's like one day you woke up and you're like, wait a minute, this is not how I want to live. And you realize what work that you have to do. And now you're starting to see your reality shift. Especially like I said before, when you start loving yourself, people start loving you. I know from a personal experience, I went through a period where I hated myself. And that was reflected back to me in the people that I engaged with. I was not kind to myself, and I attracted people that were unkind to me. And then when I started doing the healing work, the love that I was receiving, it's been phenomenal. But it pales in comparison to the love that I give myself. It's like I could care less how you think about me now. Like, I used to be a people pleaser. I used to be someone who was so overly concerned about what other people thought, how other people viewed me, that I lived and died by their validation. I lived and died by their love. It's like I couldn't breathe unless I felt like they loved me or they validated me, right? Now, the love that I have now, like, I could care less if you love me. I could care less if you like me. I could care less if you even hate me. I love myself. And my world started to change when I did that. And so this is one of those transits where you're going to start to experience the same thing, provided that you've been doing the work. If you haven't been doing the work, yeah, it's not really going to go down like that. You're going to be given opportunities to continue to do the work. So keep that in mind. It's not like like you're sort of off the hook. You're going to be presented with opportunities where it's like, okay, I can level up from this, or I could sort of stay where I'm at. I could work through this issue, or I could sort of sweep it under the rug like I usually do. Like, the choice is yours, but the opportunities will present themselves. But not just that. It's like, the way I think about Chiron energy, the phrase that comes to mind is each one teach one. It's because when you learn how to heal yourself, when you learn how to overcome your insecurities, it's kind of like you want to share that with other people. And you sort of become the blueprint. You become the example of how to overcome these things. And with Venus trine Chiron, it's like, as much as we see relationship issues being discussed on the internet, right? And usually I'm not even trying to throw shade at anyone, but a lot of times it's a lot of unhealed people talking about relationship issues and just the lower vibrational energy of relationships. Like, I feel like that's a lot of what's going on the internet. As much as we're seeing that, I feel like this Venus trine Chiron transit is really great for the opposite of that. People talking about how they've worked through their issues, people demonstrating how they have great relationships because they did the inner work, right? Like, we're going to see a lot of that too. And I'm very happy that this sort of transit is coming up because it is necessary. It's so necessary, but it's also very beautiful energy. Okay. And then we have the moon moving into Leo. So we have the full moon in Leo on Wednesday, right? So that's when the moon will reach full moon status. But right now, I'm sorry, new moon status. Right now, the moon is sort of, it's waning, it's winding down. And so in Leo, the moon allows us to be playful. It allows us to be childlike. It reminds us that we don't always have to take life so seriously. We can draw, we can paint, we can sculpt, we can play, we can laugh, we can dance, we can do anything that makes us feel free, that makes us feel childlike, and that allows us to authentically express ourselves. It speaks to our inner child. So I always tell people that whenever the moon is in Leo, you want to engage in inner child work. And a lot of times people say, well, how do I do that? Well, you kind of just have to sit with yourself. And one of the things that I like to do, I like to engage in activities that I like to do as a kid. And one of those is coloring. It's coloring, it's doodling, it's playing games. Anything that brings me back to a childlike state helps me to invoke my inner child. So in doing that, it's you having a conversation with yourself, if I'm being honest. And you really just sort of reminisce, you can remember certain things, you can reflect on certain things from the vantage point of your inner child. Like, the way to do this work can vary depending on you and what you're comfortable with. But anything that can sort of jog your memory back to your inner child is great to start doing inner child work. But the moon in Leo, excellent for that kind of work. It's also a moon that invokes creativity, that invokes love, romance, all of the subject matters of this new moon. We're starting to feel that energy. We're starting to be directed towards those topics right now with the moon in Leo. So the moon is also going to be in the waning phase. And this is when we get rid of what we no longer want or need, or things that are not of our highest good. And so it's all about surrender and reflection. And with Venus being retrograde and in close proximity to this upcoming new moon, again, it's a time to really reflect on our relationships, whether it's our relationship with ourselves, our romantic relationships, relationship with friends, or whomever. It's really just a great time to reflect on those things and think about what no longer serves you. Again, if you are like, it takes time and it takes work. Like, I don't want people to think that it's just like, okay, I do this at the new moon and then that's it. Like, it's one of those situations where you sort of repeatedly do this. But the astrology will tell you sort of when is the optimal time to do these things. And so it's really about understanding how you're showing up in relationships and then why you're showing up in that way and reflecting on that and figuring out what is not serving you, right? If you have codependency issues, where does that come from? Does it come from a fear of being abandoned? Okay. So if you have a fear of being abandoned, where does that come from? Oh, well, maybe when you were 15, your boyfriend broke up with you and it was the first time you had been abandoned and it really left an indelible mark on you, right? And then you move through life not wanting to be left. So you have this codependency issue, right? You got to hold on to things so tightly, right? That is sort of how you engage in the work. And again, you do that through reflection. And of course, the waning moon in Leo is perfect for that. All right, so let's keep it moving. All right. So then on Tuesday, we've got the Sun square Uranus. So the Sun is also in Leo. You'll see that in the larger red circle. It's at 22 degrees Leo. And then Uranus is at 22 degrees Taurus. Okay. And so anytime we are talking about Uranus, we are talking about change, sudden change, surprises, rebellion, revolution. It's always about breaking free from restriction. Now, we're going to feel this sort of intensely because Leo, where the sun is, and Taurus, where Uranus is, are both fixed signs. Fixed signs, sort of the name sort of denotes what it means. Everything is fixed, everything is stable, everything is solid. It's like being in your comfort zone. And Uranus wants you to break free of that comfort zone. Uranus wants you to explore new things. And it'll do that by sometimes pushing you, sometimes abruptly, into uncharted territory. Okay. Now, whenever we're talking about the sun, we're talking about the truth. We're talking about our personality. We're talking about self-expression, who we truly are. And it's like, the universe, I feel like this particular transit is the universe's way of really showing you who you are and where you're currently at, right? It's about your personality. And it's sort of like the universe sort of wants to shake you from where you are. And for some, if you're someone who, let's say, has a lot of fixed energy in their natal chart, this can be very jarring, right? Because you're someone who likes stability. Maybe you don't like surprises. Maybe you like to plan 10 steps ahead. And the universe will always throw you a curveball at times and be like, nope, your plan, we're going to scrap your plan. We're going to go with my plan. And my plan is like driving you at 200 miles per hour to a destination you have no idea about, right? That's how spirit works sometimes. Because otherwise, we likely wouldn't make changes on our own. And everything about Uranus is about change, right? So this is about either radical changes to yourself, right? I feel like this is one of those transits where you may like surprise yourself. Like maybe you, here's the best example of this. A transit like this may have some sort of surprising event happen, right? Some surprising radical change. And maybe your reaction to this change surprises you. Maybe you realize you're a lot stronger than you think you are, right? Something that used to rattle your cage before, now you're just like, this is an inconvenience, but it's not like detrimental to me. Or maybe this change shows you how emotional you are. Maybe it's something that's super triggering, that sort of wakes up some sort of emotional wound or trauma within you so that you can deal with it. That's what I mean when I say that this transit may surprise you about yourself, okay? Now, anytime we talk about the sun, we talk about ego. And so regardless of what happens, you'll want to be cautious about ego conflicts. People are really going to be in their ego, especially if they're triggered or especially if there's some sort of surprise happening or some sort of crazy situation that comes out of the blue, right? So be mindful of ego conflicts. And anytime you have Uranus, you don't want things to escalate because you never know how things are going to turn out. Something that starts out as a small disagreement could turn into a multi-year litigation. Like that's sort of how Uranus works. Like the smallest thing could it could snowball into the biggest thing like that, okay? So you want to avoid like getting in conflict with people. Like the best thing to do is just walk away. Just walk away. Don't say anything. Don't add fuel to the fire. Just like mind your business and keep it moving, okay? Now, also, what's interesting about the Sun and Uranus transits is that it can very much affect your appearance. So you could have a rapid change in appearance, or you may have the desire to change your appearance. And I don't like to fearmonger, but whenever Venus is retrograde, which it currently is, that is the time where you do not want to make any changes to your aesthetic. You don't want to change your hair. You don't want to get plastic surgery. You don't want to do any of that stuff because that's when you see those really botched jobs and shit that goes haywire. You want to dye your hair a different color, and instead of blonde, it's orange, and you don't like orange. So you may feel like, oh my gosh, I want to radically change my look. I want to do this. I want to do that. Like that's how the Sun square Uranus is going to have you feel. But you might not want to do that with Venus retrograde. So definitely keep that in mind. Just hold off on making radical changes to your appearance, okay? Trust me, you'll thank me later. But by and large, one of the things I love about Uranus energy is that it fosters positive change. If you're willing to roll with the punches, if you're willing to be open-minded and flexible, you can really have dramatic change in your life. So you're going to want to look at where the Sun and Uranus are. No, you're going to want to look at where Leo and Taurus are in your chart, in your natal chart. That is going to tell you where in your life you can make radical change. However, don't be like married to a particular way in which that change is going to occur. Okay? It's one of those things where it's like, listen, I want to lose weight. It's going to be one of those things where you got to roll with the punches because you may see the scale go up and down, right? And that sort of it deters you from continuing with that goal. You kind of have to allow spirit to get in the driver's seat. Okay, so don't be married to a particular way in which to change, or you have to do X, Y, and Z. Just let spirit take the wheel and you'll be good. Okay. But otherwise, I feel like this is one of those transits that's going to be very eye-opening for a lot of different reasons. Okay? All right. So with that being said, let's keep it moving. All right. So next up on Wednesday is the busiest day. So we have the new moon in Leo, right? And you'll see the Sun and the moon in the larger red circle to the left-hand portion of the chart. They're both at 23 degrees Leo and Venus. I wanted to say Virgo and Venus at the same time. And Venus is not that far behind at 18 degrees, okay? Then we also have Mars trine Uranus. Okay, so Uranus is at the top-hand portion of the chart at 23 degrees Taurus. And Mars is at 22 degrees Virgo, okay? And then we have the moon moving into Virgo at the same time. You're not going to see it on the chart because that's going to happen later in the day after the new moon in Leo, okay? So with that being said, I talked at length about the new moon in Leo, and you can also check out the video. Again, link will be in the description box below. But suffice it to say, this is one of those new moons where you're not going to want to sit it out unless you've got Leo in your 12th house. If you have Leo in your 12th house, this is going to be one of those new moons where you kind of just want to reflect and take it easy. You may want to sleep a little more. You're not necessarily going to want to be doing the most, but for everyone else, this is the new moon where you want to manifest whatever is truly in your hearts, right? if you've listened to me for a while, if you've been following me for a while, checking out my lives and my videos for a while, you'll know that I say I like to follow nature, the cycles of nature. The cycles of nature will tell you exactly what to do and when to do it, right? And when it comes to manifestation, don't get me wrong, you can manifest anything at any time. There are no limits to you, right? But sometimes it's easier to manifest certain things at a certain time than at other times, okay? And so, like I said, it's not every new moon that you're like, yeah, I want a new boo, I want to get married, blah, blah, blah. It may not be the time for that. But guess what? This is the new moon where it's time for that. So if you are looking to get into a relationship, if you are looking to rekindle an old relationship, if especially with Venus being retrograde, this is like comeback season, right? If you want to get your money up, because Venus also rules money, this is going to be one of those particular new moons for that, right? Leo is all about what's in your heart. And it's what's authentically in your heart. It's not what you think other people will want. It's not about what makes more logical sense. It's about digging deep into who you truly are so that you can figure out what you truly want and manifest that. Point blank, period. Now, the way that the astrology and the numerology is set up is such that you have the ability to make changes. Everything about this is about change, right? And this sort of goes with what I was saying before about doing that inner work. It's like we're going to see these changes starting to occur because we've addressed the issues inside. Unless you've done that, you're just going to continue to revisit the same things, the same situations, perhaps with the same people or maybe even new people. But the fact that we've all collectively been directed to address our inner selves, our hearts, our relationship issues with this Venus transit, I feel like we're all going to start to experience new relationships, or relationships are going to start to show up differently for us because we're different, because we've gotten rid of the things that no longer serve us. And so now this new moon kind of gives you the opportunity to take your new self for a ride. Basically, this new self, this healed self, this self that doesn't have all of this emotional baggage, you're going to have the opportunity to manifest from that place as that person. And that's where the change comes in. So it's going to take time. It may not happen at the new moon or even shortly thereafter. However, I believe that you're going to start to see the wheels turning. You're going to start to see things moving in a better direction. And so again, I feel like the energy of this particular new moon is absolutely beautiful. It's also going to be trine the North Node. So we're also being directed to where it is that we're sort of meant to go. We're sort of being directed to our life purpose, our soul's mission. And guess what? That soul's mission, it's within your heart. It's the new moon is trine the North Node. The new moon is in Leo. The North Node is in Aries. This is letting us know that where we're headed, or ultimately where we're supposed to end up, or where we're destined to go, is in alignment with our heart's truest desires. It's in alignment with our desires, what we want. So this is the time to get really clear on not just who you are, but what you want. And that's what's going to help propel you forward with this new moon. Okay? And again, if you want to learn more about this new moon, link to the video will be in the description box below. Then next up, we've got Mars trine Uranus, okay? And Mars is currently in Virgo, I believe, yes. And Uranus is in Taurus, okay? So this is going to have us feeling a bit impulsive. Rather than, so Sun square Uranus that we have on Tuesday, I feel like that is a transit where things sort of surprise us, where things sort of, it's one of those transits where it feels like you're sort of not in control. Contrast that to Mars trine Uranus. This is sort of where you decide to shake things up. This isn't things happening outside of your control. This is you taking control and going in a completely different direction with things. This allows for bold action. It allows for risk taking. And it sort of allows you to create new and exciting opportunities. So it's very instinctual energy. I just said with this new moon, it's like our true north, where we're sort of destined to go, where we're supposed to be headed in this life, has a lot to do with our desires, especially now with that new moon trine the north node. So I feel like Mars trine Uranus is going to have you taking bold and perhaps risky action steps on those desires or toward the fulfillment of those desires. And instinctively, that's what you're going to feel. It's almost like a light bulb goes off, right? And you realize, wow, this is what I really want. And again, there's no time like the present to get crystal clear on what it is that you want, maybe who it is that you want, right? Crystal clear. And then Mars trine Uranus is like, oh, wow, this is what I want. All right, boom, I'm going to take action on this. I'm going to do this. Something in my spirit is telling me to go here. Something in my spirit is telling me to pick up the phone and call this person. Something in my spirit is telling me to research this thing online or go to this place, right? Follow your instincts. Your instincts are definitely going to let you know where to go. And it's all going to be in alignment. If you are operating from your authentic self and from your heart space, you can't go wrong with this. Listen to your intuition. Be willing to take action. Be willing to initiate things. Mars is all about initiation. Be willing to start something new. Be willing to, go out on a limb for something or for someone. Okay. Now keep in mind, Mars is also combative. But what I love about this particular transit, because it is a trine, normally, if you were to take bold action on the things that you want, you might be met with resistance, right? You might be met with people who are like, what are you doing? Why are you doing that? I don't like it. I don't think you should be doing that, right? You know how people always want to put their 2 cents in and tell you shit they have no business telling you about, right? But because this is a trine, people are going to be more receptive to you going out on a limb or being a little risky or saying like, oh, you know what? Like, oh, I get that. Or, oh, that's cool. Oh, you like that? Oh, that's nice. Or, oh, I support that. Or maybe even, oh, do you need help with that? Like, I feel like people are going to be very receptive to these changes, to this action, to this impulsive action, this instinctive action that you feel that you need to take as it relates to your heart's truest desire. So it can be very fiery, it can be very motivated, it could be very driven energy. Just make sure that you're not reckless with it, because Mars trine Uranus has a penchant for recklessness. You're going to want to stop and think, right? Listen to your intuition, right? But also think, take your brain along with you. Don't just jump to it and then before you know it, you've caused an accident or something. And like I was saying, I guess now this would have been the first live I did earlier. This particular transit lends itself to physical accidents. Okay, I want you to be very cognizant of that. Be careful around sharp instruments. It's one of those. Actually, this transit would go well for surgery, so I wouldn't necessarily be too worried about that. But just be careful. That impulsivity, that recklessness could lead to harmful results if you're not smart, if you're not careful. Okay, so just putting that out there. But otherwise, follow your intuition, especially if you are moving from your heart space, you can't go wrong. Okay. And then later on that day, after the moon has made its debut at the new moon in Leo, the moon is going to be moving into Virgo. And so what I love about the energy of Leo to Virgo is that Leo is like, yes, this is what I want. This is what's in my heart. I want to express myself. And then Virgo was like, all right, boom. So what do we have to do to keep this going? Right? What do we have to do? What work do we have to do? What practical steps do we have to do in order to make this happen? So with the moon in Virgo, this is going to, and it's coming off the heels of that Mars trine Uranus. So you're feeling impulsive, you're feeling like taking action steps, and the moon in Virgo is like, all right, so let's get to work. Let's put a system in place. Let's get organized and figure out what we need to do in order to keep this going, in order to have this thing, in order to sustain this thing, right? So instinctively, we gravitate toward practical activities. Like I said, things that we would do on a daily basis or things that we would do somewhat regularly in order to sustain this fiery energy that we have at our disposal with this new moon, okay? This is about solving problems. It's about making order out of chaos. You know, Virgo energy. It loves to clean things up. It loves to organize and compartmentalize things. Okay, so that's exactly what we do when the moon is in Virgo. Now, the moon is going to be in the waxing phase, right? Because we're just coming out of that new moon phase. And so this is about taking action steps. And these action steps that we're going to take while the moon is in Virgo is practical steps. This isn't going to necessarily be things that are sexy or impulsive or romantic. This is going to be, okay, it's like when you have a relationship, right? You have that honeymoon phase, that phase where everything is just bubbly and great and kissy faces all the time and hearts. But then it's like, okay, you know, on a daily basis, okay, let me check in with this person today. Let me see what they need. Let me ask them to pick this up for me. It's like practical shit, right? The practical elements of relationships. So whenever the moon is in Virgo, we tend to focus on the practicalness of life, right? And the practical steps we need to take towards the things that we desire to manifest. All right. So yeah, so that is Wednesday. So let's keep it moving. All right. And so we close out the week on Saturday with the moon in Libra. Okay. And so you will see that at the bottom, you'll see it in the red circle. The moon, little crescent moon at 0 degrees Libra. Okay. So, so we close out the week with Libra, with the moon in Libra. And I like this for us because moon in Libra is all about cooperation. It's all about socializing. And I love when the moon is in Libra on the weekend because it gets you to want to be social. It gets you to want to hang out with people. Libra is the sign of relationships. Excuse me. So we like to relate to people. We like to relate with people when the moon is in Libra. Okay. So this is about having fun, socializing, talking to people. Also, just to sort of bring it home with what I was talking about. So we figured out what we wanted was in our heart, what we want to manifest, right, with this new moon in Leo. Then with the moon in Virgo, we're taking practical steps to achieve the things that we want, that we desire, that's our heart's truest desires, right? We're taking practical steps. And then when it comes to Libra, right, we realize that sometimes we need help with those things. Libra allows us to cooperate and work with other people. No man is an island. And a lot of times the things that we need or the things that we want, we either have to get from other people or we share them with other people, right? Other people are invariably always involved, right? So when the moon is in Libra, we sort of focus on that. And so especially when it comes to something like relationships, right? Like you want to manifest a relationship. And I will say this, and this is the hill that I will die on. You cannot change other people. You can only change yourself. When you change yourself, that's when you see other people change in response to you. Because relations are a reflection of us. So it's like when people, like, let's say you've had a situation where you have a partner that is unfaithful and you're trying everything to get them to be faithful. That's not how that's not how you make the situation change. You change yourself, you change your response to the infidelity, you change how you feel about your partner, how you view about your partner. Long story short, people show up in our lives based on what we believe about them. Have you ever known someone, right? Like you have a great relationship with someone, right? You get along, they're friendly, they're nice with you, great relationship. But then you talk to other people about that person and they're like, oh my God, I can't stand that person. Oh, they're so mean to me, blah, 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 blah. And you're like, wait a minute, that's the person you're talking about? Like, I have a great relationship with that person. Just because other people have a bad relationship with someone doesn't mean that you have to have a bad relationship with them. If you think the best of people will show up. So when the moon is in Libra, especially if what you're trying to manifest at this new moon is a relationship, right? It's all about how you, and Libra is an air sign. Air sign has a lot to do with our thoughts, our thinking. It's how you perceive and what you believe about people. If you believe that the person that you like, the person that you want to manifest, like they don't know you exist, or they don't like you, or you feel like they're not going to like you, guess what? They're not going to like you. And they're going to show up showing you how much they don't like you, because that's what you believe about them. The moon in Libra is urging us to think the best of people, or at least think about people in the way that you want them to show up in your life, okay? Especially because I know a lot of people are going to be thinking about or manifesting or trying to manifest relationships, because that's the season that we're in right now. And rather than thinking about, well, it's one thing to say, yes, I've done all this work on myself, right? And I'm starting to attract different kind of relationships. You don't want to sabotage those relationships by having janky thoughts about the people that you're attracting. It can be as vague as, or as broad as, all men are cheaters or all women are gold diggers. Any sort of generalized blanket statements you have about the sex that you're interested in could ultimately be a detriment to having the relationship that you want. Or it could be as specific as, this person that I want to be with, they're always on their phone. They never pay attention to me. Yeah, that's exactly how they're going to show up, because that's what you believe about them, right? Long story short, moon in Libra, on a mundane level, hang out, socialize with people. Moon in Libra is great for that. But as it relates to this sort of energy that we're in right now, this is urging you to change how you think about people, change how you think about relationships, change how you think about specific people in your life, and then that's how they will show up. That's how you start manifesting the relationships that you want. It's not about trying to get them to change. The focus is never on them. The focus is on you and what you believe about yourself, about relationships, and perhaps about that person in particular. All right. So just a word of advice if you would like to take it. Okay. All right. So that is pretty much how this week is going to go. I feel like it's going to be a good week, very interesting. Allow yourself to be flexible. Allow yourself to really be authentic. Be honest with yourself about what you really want. This is not the time to beat around the bush. This is not the time to be like, I really want this, but I don't think I can have it. Like, the thing about Leo energy is that it's all about courage. And sometimes to really be convicted about the things that we want, the things that we desire, we have to be courageous in that. And so that's what we are being urged to do this week. Beautiful energy this week. All right. So as always, I'm going to be pulling cards for messages from Spirit for us. I always do these by signs. However, whatever message resonates for you, resonates, whether it's your sun, your moon, your rising, your Venus, doesn't matter. If the message is for you, it is for you. All right. So as always, let's start with Aries. Let's see what Aries has for this week. You've got two cards. You've got the Chariot and you've got the Six of Pentacles. Aries, assistance is on the way. I feel like you're entering a phase where things are finally moving forward, and you guys tend to be very headstrong, right? You guys are fiercely independent, and you feel like you kind of usually have to do things on your own. And normally that doesn't bother you, but I get the sense that lately it has. You're kind of like, damn, like I want this, I want to have this, but I would really like some help. Why is it that I got to do everything on my own? I feel like this is the week where assistance is finally coming in, whether it's financial assistance, whether it's some kind of advice or something like that. But I feel like things are moving forward, and finally people are going to start getting on your bandwagon. This sort of reminds me of that Mars trine Uranus transit I was talking about before. Remember how I said, with that transit, it's like we are driven and motivated toward a desire, and people are actually on board with it. Like, people aren't fighting us. They're not presenting obstacles or challenges or giving us resistance or pushback. Like, I feel like that's exactly what's going on with you. Like, you are finally able to move forward towards exactly what you want victoriously. And then people are like, oh, okay, cool. I see that you're doing this. Let me help you out. Or, you know who can help you with that? So-and-so can really help you with that. So again, Aries, I feel like assistance is here for you this week. So be receptive and allow yourself to accept it. Okay. Next up, we've got Taurus. Let's see what we've got for Taurus for this week. Ooh, Taurus, I love this for you. You've got the Nine of Pentacles. Taurus, you have learned some important lessons regarding money and value. I feel like you feel extremely abundant right now, not only materially, like with money or maybe with things or assets, but you feel good about yourself. I feel like you are in an amazing place right now where you understand your self-worth. You're not willing to compromise it for anyone. Money is starting to come in. You're feeling abundant. You're just able to enjoy life. So I feel like this is a week of enjoyment. It's also enjoying the fruits of your labor. Especially if you've been doing that difficult inner work, you're going to start to see the tangible results of that. So congratulations, Taurus. That's an excellent place to be. Next up, we've got Gemini. Let's see what we've got for Gemini for this week. All right, Gemini, we have the Knight of Pentacles, and the word that just came out was cautious. Some of you have also learned valuable lessons when it comes to self-worth. I don't think this has to do with money. For you, Gemini, I feel like this has to do with self-worth, your self-esteem. And you want to move forward, but you're sort of still wobbly. You're still very cautious. You're still testing the waters in terms of who you give your time, energy, and effort to. And I feel like you're still in the learning phase of what it means to be valuable. What is valuable about you? What assets, what characteristics you have that are valuable, not only to yourself, but to others. So I feel like you're moving forward, but you're moving forward slowly and cautiously. And that's a good thing, because being cautious allows you to be intentional, and it allows you to observe. So rather than just flitting about from thing to thing or person to person like you may normally want to do, I feel like you're being a little more reserved, and I feel like you're being a lot more discerning with respect to where you place your time, energy, and value. Okay? Next up, we've got Cancer. Let's see what we've got for Cancer for this week. I like this, Cancer. We've got the Wheel of Fortune. So two things. Number one, things are starting to finally turn. Some of you, I'm hearing, have been through the trenches for a couple of years, and things may have been very stagnant. And things are finally starting to turn a corner. Like, I feel like you are finally starting to expand. You're finally starting to move forward successfully. You're starting to see things come to fruition. I'm almost hearing like, so someone who may have been in school for a long time, then you graduated. Now you're finally getting a job. You're finally working in your field. You're finally starting to make money. You're able to get a car. You're able to start saving for a house. You have a new apartment. Like, that's the sort of trajectory that I am seeing for you right now. For some, this is just a week that's full of good fortune and opportunity. But understand that the opportunity is going to require you to expand. It's going to require you to move out of your comfort zone. So if you are invited out of your comfort zone, Spirit is saying, accept the invitation. Allow yourself to expand, because there's so much more in store for you, Cancer. Okay. Next up, we've got Leo. Let's see what we've got for Leo for this week. All right, Leo, we've got Temperance. Spirit is saying that things are still cooking. Okay, so be patient. I know it's tough. Excuse me. Spirit is like, I know it's tough. I know you've been waiting for a while. I know it's like, on Christmas morning, and when you were a kid, you would wake up at the ass crack of dawn to open presents. And as an adult, I'm like, ugh, can't believe I used to do that as a kid. But you would wake up at like 6 a.m. and you got to wait for your parents, and you got to like, you have to wait to open the gift, right? Spirit is like, I need you to wait just a little longer. We're still wrapping presents. We're still buying some stuff. We're still getting everything together for you. Things are still being alchemized. This part of the message is for everybody. We, in our limited understanding, right? Because we rely on our five senses. So we rely on what we can physically see, what we can touch. You get what I'm saying, right? In our limited understanding, sometimes we have no idea what goes into the manifestation of the things that we want. Sometimes literal mountains have to be moved, okay? And it's not to say that what you're asking for or what you desire is so big or that it's this unreachable thing. Is that sometimes literal mountains have to be moved. Sometimes people have to be persuaded. Sometimes people have to have a change of heart. Sometimes people need more information. Sometimes things need more. There is there's infinite possibilities, right? And the way that things can turn out, it's we can't even fathom it in our limited humanity, right? So when people say, oh, manifest something in 3 days, it is a possibility that that can happen. But sometimes the magnitude of what we want requires a lot of work, whether it's work that we're doing, whether it's work that spirit is doing. And so that's why it's so important to practice gratitude and appreciation for where you are right now, because it sort of makes the waiting easier. But also faith. Just because you don't see it now doesn't mean that it's not happening. Mountains may literally be moving, right? People may have a change of heart. Like God may be softening some people's hearts for you. And it's happening. There's always movement. There's always movement towards the things that you desire. Never believe that there isn't. But we live in a microwave society where everyone wants something now. Like, oh my gosh, I want to be a millionaire overnight. Or I want to go from not knowing this person to getting married in a week. Like, it doesn't always work that way. And so we need to have patience. But more importantly, we need to have faith. Because sometimes I feel like spirit is like, well, damn, like you're constantly complaining. I'm over here working my ass off for you. I've involved other people. Like I'm orchestrating everything, and you either just want to give up, or like you're testing me. Like you think like I'm not working for you. Sometimes I think the spirit. I'm sure that the love and light people are gonna disagree with me, but sometimes I feel like spirit be getting like kind of pissy with us because we're just like, I want it now. I want it now. Oh, it's not happening now. Oh, I don't think it's gonna happen. I don't want this. And spirit is like, are you kidding me? You know how many people I had to work on? You know I had to literally move that mountain. You know I had to soften this bastard's heart for you, and you don't want it anymore. Like I think spirit be getting like that sometimes. That's just my opinion. But in any event, back to Leo. Leo, be patient. It's coming. It's coming. It's coming. It's coming. Everything is being alchemized. Everything is being moved around. Everything is being shifted for you. So just be patient. And find a nice distraction in the meantime, a healthy distraction. Take up something creative. Do something to take your mind off the fact that you don't have this thing yet. Keyword is yet. But it's coming, so be patient. All right. Next up, we've got Virgo. Let's see what we have for Virgo for this week. Virgo. We've got the Ten of Swords. All right, Virgo. This is giving me very Virgo vibes, right? Because you're just like, what else could go wrong? Like you are bracing yourself for this. You think that this is what's going to happen, or you're so afraid of this happening that you are planning for this in the event that this happens. And Spirit is like, please stop doing that. Understand, and Spirit is saying this so loudly in my ear right now, understand that the worst is literally behind you. See how this is in his back? It's literally behind you. Anything that could have gone wrong already did. Seriously. Stop thinking that the other shoe is going to drop. Stop thinking that, oh, something else is going to go wrong. Please, like, Spirit is like, please don't be focusing on Murphy's Law, right? Saying that whatever could go wrong will go wrong. No, don't do that. This is a time for you to be optimistic. This is a time for you to be hopeful. This is a time to look this is a time to look to the future. Don't brace yourself for this. Don't plan for this, because you plan for this is exactly what's going to happen. Yes, you've been through some shit. Yes, things have been tough. Things have been beyond tough, but they're not going to be as tough anymore. You've done the work. You've learned your lesson. Now the clouds are parting and the sun is coming back out. Be optimistic, especially this week. Okay. Next up, we've got Libra. Let's see what we've got for Libra for this week. Libra, we've got the Seven of Swords. I'm hearing by hook or by crook. Like some of you are, I'm getting fox-like energy. Like you're willing to do some sort of underhanded things to sort of get what you want. But spirit is like, you feel like you need to operate like this. And operating like this only comes from a place of lack. When you don't have faith in yourself, when you don't have faith in the process, when you don't have faith in spirit, you feel like you have to manipulate shit. Like you have to do underhanded shit. Like you have to try to get over on somebody so you can get something. No. Didn't I just say before when I went on my little diatribe that spirit be working on your behalf, right? Sometimes spirit has to move mountains. Sometimes spirit has to soften people's hearts. Some of you feel like you don't believe that spirit does that for you. So you feel like you have to do it yourself. You feel like you have to do some underhanded tactics. Maybe you have to do some magic. Maybe you got to do something else because that's how you feel the situation will get resolved. And it just is a testament to the fact that you don't have faith in spirit, nor do you have faith in yourself. And I don't mean to be rude about that or harsh, but that's how spirit is delivering it to me right now. You need to have more faith. You don't have to be like this to get what you want. You can get what you want on the up and up. You have the power to create the reality that you want, and you don't have to do it with this sneaky, underhanded kind of energy. Okay? All right. Next up, we've got Scorpio. Let's see what we've got for Scorpio for this week. Scorpio, I don't know if you're mad or you're fired up about something, but whatever it is, you've got the moon card. You're really in your emotions this week. And I feel like the emotions that you're feeling is like anger, frustration, rage, or like passion. But whatever it is, you're feeling it very intensely. This is not uncharted territory for you because you guys feel things intensely, but I feel like something is being activated for you right now. And I get the sense that this intense emotion is the result of some sort of ending or some sort of transition or some sort of transformation. Now, you guys are the kings and queens of transformation. So that doesn't come that's not something that's not new to you. I think the fact that this transformation or this change, it comes abruptly or suddenly. And I have this feeling that it really gets you in your feelings. Okay? This could be an accident of some sort. Maybe you hear about an accident. Maybe you get some unsettling news. Maybe like you get laid off or something like that. Like it's something abrupt that you have no idea is coming, and it really has you in your feelings. But I get the sense that you're not in your feelings for long. Like I get the sense that you're sort of like in the moment, in the heat of the moment, you're heated. I'm not even gonna lie to you. However, you sort of turn on your Scorpio-ness and you start to understand why this thing happened and understand what it means and the transformation, and you're willing to let go. You're willing to just let shit slide. You're willing to move past it, okay? So I do sense some intense emotion. I do sense some anger. I do sense some like, whoa, like you're really in your feelings for a bit, but then I feel like you sort of get back to yourself and get back on track. Okay? All right. Next up, we've got Sagittarius. Let's see what we've got for Sagittarius for this week. All right, Sagittarius, we've got the Queen of Swords. You guys are like telling somebody or directing, like you're telling someone where to go and what to do. Like some of you, I'm hearing bossy. Like you guys are super bossy. Like you're so crystal clear on what it is that you want to do. And it's just like it's like you're the conductor of the orchestra. You're like orchestrating different people to do different things. And sort of along the same lines of Libra's message. Libra was like manipulating shit and kind of doing shit underhanded to get what they want. Sagittarius, you feel like you have to like directly tell people what to do. You feel like if you are not orchestrating, then it's not going to happen. And that also signifies a lack of faith. Like you're like, I have to control everything. I have to direct everything. I'm the one that has to make things happen. You need to do this. You need to do that. And Spirit's like, nah, man. Like Relinquish some of that control. You're directing things with like clenched fists because you feel like that's the only way that it's going to happen. Spirit is like, no, you can let it be known what it is that you desire, and then let the pieces fall naturally, right? With the Uranus transits this week, we have to be flexible and open-minded. It's not to say that we have to be flexible about what we want. That's not what the issue is. Want what you want, especially if you're wanting it, it's really in your heart space. But how to get that thing, you have to be open-minded and flexible to how it will manifest, to how it will unfold. You don't need to be doing underhanded tactics, nor do you need to be controlling every single step of the process. Relinquish some control. Let people know what you want, but then let things unfold naturally. Okay? All right. Next up, we've got Capricorn. All right, Capricorn. We've got the Emperor. All right. You guys are very decisive this week. Not only are you decisive, you're very fired up about something. You're very, you've really decided on what it is that you want, but you're also very militant about it. Again, this is sort of like the energy of Sagittarius, where you feel like you have to strategize. So we've got Libra, to recap, we've got Libra that's like, let me do a spell real quick, or let me like manipulate this person, or let me play mind games with them so I can get what I want. Spirit is like, no. We've got Sagittarius who's like, you do this, you do that, X, Y, and Z. Spirit is like, no. Then we have the Emperor. We've got Capricorn. And this is sort of like, you're being strategic also, but you're like militant about it. You're almost mean about it. And Spirit is like, no. You don't have to be so militant. This isn't a thing of strategy, okay? You don't have to strategize what is in your heart. It's almost like we have a direct connection to Spirit through our hearts. That's one of the ways in which we have a direct connection to Spirit. And Spirit knows what's in our heart. Spirit knows how things should unfold in the best way for us, right? You don't have to this isn't Battleship, okay? This isn't, I wanted to say Chutes and Ladders. That's so not what I meant to say. But you know what I mean? Like a game of strategy, right? We're not strategizing with our hearts. We're feeling with our hearts. We're being authentic with what's in our hearts. And we're allowing our hearts to lead. Of the three, meaning of Libra, Sagittarius, and Capricorn, you Capricorn are sort of in a better position. Meaning that at least with this Aries energy, right? Because Aries is represented of the Emperor card. You have the passion. So you are really fired up about what it is that you want. But for some of you, what you want, you may be very aware of competition. And that's why you feel the need to be strategic. You may feel like, well, other people want what I want. Or other people are going to go after the same thing that I want. So I've got to be strategic. And Spirit is like, no. Allow Spirit to drive, and you won't have to be in tactical war mode in order to get what you want. Okay? All right. Next up, we've got Aquarius. Let's see what we've got for Aquarius for this week. Okay, we've got two. We've got the Knight of Wands, and we've got the King of Cups. Oh my gosh. You don't even want to know what Spirit was just telling me. Some of you are going from like fuck boy or fuck girl to committed partner. Like some of you guys are really getting a first-hand lesson. Some of you are in a master class right now on how to be more committed, okay? But here's the thing. This commitment that you're learning is actually commitment to yourself. So it may not show up in a relationship kind of sense, right? It's not like you're going to be tested as far as your ability to commit to a relationship. Spirit is like, you're going to be tested on how willing you are to commit to yourself. So that can show up in a variety of ways. But Aquarius, you guys are getting the masterclass on that this week. And it may not even be for the purpose of being committed in a relationship. It may be for the purpose of having what it is that you truly want. Because a lot of times, and the first example that comes to mind is weight loss. You want to lose a significant amount of weight, right? How committed to, not even just committed to the process, how committed to yourself are you to follow through with what needs to be done for that? It requires sacrifice, right? It requires like delayed gratification. Are you committed enough to yourself to want those things, to do those things, to have what you want? So I feel like this is going to be a week where, again, you're in a masterclass all on commitment, right? But opportunities are going to arise, situations are going to come up where your commitment to yourself is going to be tested. And you're going to be able to see where you stand. How committed to yourself are you? That's going to be reflected back to you in your situations. And it's up to you to do with that information what you will. But ultimately, you can definitely learn how to be more committed to yourself. And in being more committed to yourself, you'll have other things and other people being committed to you. Yes, I'm pulling cards for the week. Sorry, this whole live had glitched earlier, so I had to start a new one. All right, so if you're just joining, that's perfectly fine. I'm actually at the end of pulling cards, but you can definitely check the replay. And yes, because I'm actually on Pisces right now. So let's pull some cards for Pisces and see what we've got. All right, Pisces, we've got the Page of Cups. Pisces, you guys are exploring new emotions. Okay. And it's interesting because Pisces, you guys are a very sensitive sign, right? You guys are very in touch with your emotions. However, when you guys are faced with intensity, when you guys are maybe even out of your element, you guys like to swim away, right? So whatever emotions you are being introduced to this week, I feel like it's this energy of exploration. It's like, I've never really felt this before. I've never felt this with respect to this person or this situation. It's new feelings that you're sort of trying on and seeing how they fit. For some, this fish here, it's giving me like abundance or like work or money. So it may be new feelings with respect to that. But sort of like you may be feeling like a fish out of water. So you may be feeling like you are in something new, experiencing something new, and you're trying it on. Okay. And so your advice is to be authentic with how you feel. Don't try to like if you it's almost like, you know, when someone asks you to taste something and you're just like, you really don't like it, but you don't want to hurt their feelings, so you're like, oh, it's okay. No, spirit wants you to be really, really honest with yourself about how you truly feel. Number one. Number two, don't shy away from how you feel either. I feel like you're going to be feeling like a fish out of water. You're going to be feeling like out of your element, feeling something new, and possibly wanting to run, or possibly wanting to swim away, or possibly wanting to ignore it. Spirit is like, no, like, feel this, lean into it, okay? And don't try to avoid it with anything that's detrimental, like whether it's addictive behaviors, substance abuse, anything like that. Like, allow yourself to feel these new emotions. Just because they're new doesn't mean that they're bad. It just means that you've never felt them before. And what's new to you now may become your new normal in the very near future. So embrace it. And again, try them on and see how these new emotions fit. Okay? All right, my love. So that concludes this week's edition of the Weekly Astro Forecast. I sincerely hope that you were able to get at least one important piece of information that you can use going into this week. All of my products and services, all of that wonderful information will be in the description box below. So don't forget to check them out. As always, I am live every Monday at 9:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for the weeklies, and then 9:30 p.m. on the last Wednesday of every month for the monthlies. All right, so subscribe, set those notifications so you never miss a beat. All right, again, thank you so much for tuning in. Have an amazing week, and I will see you in my next broadcast. All right.